So, how do programs get designed? They get designed in the political process. There's no alternative to that. We can sit around and talk analytically about voucher programs and, promoting values until we're blue in the face, but the fact of the matter is, vouchers get designed or adopted or not in the political process. And the political process often has very little to do with kids, unfortunately. It has a lot to do with power and with the interests of adults. So let me sort of break this down by talking about Democrats and Republicans, simplify things. So Democrats are the party of government, and they favor more government programs, more government spending, government control of things. They hate privatization and so on. And they also have allies who have vested interests in government. So in education, these main allies are the teachers' unions and the school districts. So the teachers' unions have a vested interest in jobs. Their own job is to represent the jobs of teachers, their members, and their members have a vested interest in jobs in the existing system. So what do vouchers do? Vouchers allow kids and money to leave the public system, and therefore jobs to leave the public system. That is the last thing the unions want. It's an existential issue for them. It's the end of civilization as they know it. And they do not want that, and no matter what, they're opposed to vouchers, right? And if you could show them definitively that vouchers are great for disadvantaged kids, and that disadvantaged families love vouchers and want vouchers and would benefit from vouchers, the teachers' unions would be opposed to vouchers. And this has been shown again and again and again. 100% of the time, this is what they do. They're opposed to vouchers. School districts. You might think, school districts, they're powerful? Yes, they are. Now, I can talk about this later if you're interested. It seems weird that school districts would themselves be powerful with state legislatures. But they are, and they have a vested interest, obviously, in the existing system because they are the existing system. They are the government at the local level. And the last thing they want is to lose money and enrollments. Well, that's what a voucher system does. It takes money and enrollments away from them. So again, end of civilization as they know it, and they're totally against vouchers, and none of this has anything to do with whether vouchers are good for kids. This is not about children. Now, I'll just add one little addendum here. I think there's a tendency among many people who support vouchers and support choice and so on to demonize the teachers' unions and to demonize some school districts and so on, and to make them out to be bad people. I think the best way to think of this is that in politics generally, people's incentives, groups' incentives, are highly structured by their roles in the system. I think the members of the teachers' unions generally care for kids. They care about kids. Teachers often love kids. It's not about them as human beings. The union is in the business of protecting their jobs. And that is what the union does, right? And it has nothing to do with the human beings that love kids. It's about jobs. It's about vested interests, and that's all it's about, right? And this is what most of the players in politics do, whether it's in education or some other area, right? And so I think it's a very important thing not to demonize the people who are doing, in some sense, their jobs, right? They're playing their roles, whereas privately, they may be wonderful, right? So just make that distinction. This is what the teachers' unions do. They oppose vouchers no matter what. It doesn't matter if the kids would benefit, but they do it for institutional reasons, for their own vested interest reasons, and that's normal. Okay, so disadvantaged families are normally represented by Democrats. And so you go through any policy area that you can think of, child care, health insurance, you name it, and the Democrats support disadvantaged people, but not in education. And the reason is that choice is a threat to their vested interests. So what they say is, no, we support disadvantaged kids, and the way we support them is we want more funding for the public schools and we want higher pay for teachers, because that's really the only way to help disadvantaged kids. All right, well, this is just a rationalization. It's a way for them to support the existing system and to oppose school choice, to have a rationalization for that, when really choice is threatening, and that is the reason they oppose it. Okay. So, how about Republicans? Well, as I say, is it on there? Yeah. So, Republicans support vouchers, sort of. So, let me explain that. Ideologically, they're on board, right? And most of them are sort of free market types. They think of themselves as fighters for freedom and small government and all the rest. And they have a constituency of evangelical parents who want vouchers so that their kids can go to evangelical schools. But the brute fact is that most parents, 90%, send their kids to public schools, and most parents like the local public schools. They're wedded to them. And this is especially true in rural communities, because those rural schools are at the very center of those rural communities. People identify with them. Lots of community events take place at these schools. And they do not want those schools damaged or undermined by some reform that takes money away from them and kids away from them. And so the Republicans, and these are perfectly red areas, right? All these rural communities are totally Republican. And what? Republicans are to support big booming voucher systems? I don't think so. So that's the problem they run into. Now you might say, what about business groups? Aren't business groups pushing for vouchers? No, they're not. Business groups are, surprisingly, moderate on education reform. They support accountability. No major business groups support vouchers. What about philanthropists, big donors? Well, Walton supports vouchers, but the rest of them, Gates, Broad, Bloomberg, a number of others, they don't support vouchers. So, the bottom line here is that Republicans have weak incentives to promote vouchers. The Democrats, for their part, have tremendous power backing them up through the vested interests. They also operate within a separation of power system that has multiple veto points and gives them many opportunities to block. Blocking is much easier in a separation of power system than actually getting stuff done. And so the Democrats hold all the cards, and the Republicans have weak incentives anyway. However, there's one opening, and that opening is that Republicans now have total control over, almost half the state legislatures, state governments. And in those governments, the Democrats can't block, and the Republicans can do whatever they want. So what have they done? Okay, so ask yourself this question. Do you see huge universal voucher programs across the South? No. That's a tip-off. What's going on here? They could have done that. And they didn't do it. Not even close.